Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Testing Mini Bytes. I am your friend Amudan Shaktivel. Today we will see one of the important topic in Testng. It's called as data provider. Right? Before we implement data provider in our framework, we need to understand why we need data provider. When we have something like for loop where I can iterate and then run with a lot of test data. Right? So this is going to be the agenda for today. First, we have a very small issues when in our framework when we implemented enumeration. So we will fix that within few minutes. Then we'll move to the data provider section where we will understand how we can use data provider. Okay, why we need to use data provider when we have for loop to to iterate and perform a lot of operations. Right? What is the difference between using a for loop and data provider? We will understand that, and we'll also see what is the written type of data provider. There has been so many tutorials or interview questions that's been asked around data provider, right? So normally they will ask what is the written type of data provider. People will answer it's two-dimensional object array. Why it is always two-dimensional object array? It can be anything else, right? So we need to understand why it is two-dimensional object array and what are the other possibilities that it can have. So we'll learn more towards it, and we'll also understand how we can use data provider, where we have to use data provider and other stuff. Then we can also see how we can use the same data provider for multiple test methods. Normally we use one data provider for the same for one test method, right? So there is also a possibility that you can use the same data provider which can feed a different set of data for different test cases. We'll also see that in today's video. We'll also understand there are certain important nodes when we need to understand when using a data provider, so we'll understand that as well. We'll also see how we can integrate data provider with our Excel sheet. Okay, so we need to read the data from the Excel sheet and feed it to the data provider. And also we'll see what is the disadvantage of directly using this. Okay, and then we'll also see how we can integrate data provider, Excel, and your hash map to reduce the parameters of the test method. Again, if you are not understanding what I'm telling now, you're gonna learn it in few minutes. So let's get started without wasting much time. So first step, we want to fix the issues that we have in our framework. So if you notice, we have implemented the enumeration in the property file. So when I tried to run the test, it was actually failing. So we didn't do the dry run in our last video. So I thought maybe we'll fix that, and then before proceeding to the data provider section. So you should open a Chrome, and then it should throw some exception. So we'll see what is that, and then we'll try to fix that. So it opened the Chrome, but it didn't load the URL. But all my results are telling, see, the property name URL is not found. Please check config properties. If you notice, this is the exception that's been thrown in my test engine result. So what is that? Because see, when you are trying to fetch the data, we are using this, but we have a if condition that is checking whether the enum that I send is null. Okay, anyway, the enum that I send is not null because we are calling it from your driver.java. This particular thing is not null because we actually have this enum in place. So if I go even here, this is not null. So I have this enum, this is not null. Okay, then what is null? And then is null config map dot get. Instead of passing the enum as a string, I'm directly passing the enum. This hash map, okay, this hash map will accept a string, okay, as a key. So the enum, if you pass, it will not be there, so it is returning as null. So what I need to do, I need to either use toString dot to lowercase, or you can directly use their name method, which will actually give you string to the lowercase. Because I'm using lowercase because in the property file, if you notice, the URL, the key is in the small letters. So so I need to convert this URL into a string and then to lowercase, so that it can exactly match with the values what I have entered in the property file. Now let us again try to run the test. We have fixed this. Now let us run the test, and everything should work fine. This is a small change that we need to do. Once this is done, we'll head to data provider. Again, guys, if you find my videos little slow, please change the playback settings to 1.5 or 2 so that you don't feel any slowness. Okay, again, the website is launched now, so that there shouldn't be any issues. Okay. Okay, there is some invalid credentials, that's fine. Maybe they would have updated some URL, the password, that's fine. But for now, it will just overload URL. That's good. Now get back to our main agenda, that's data provider. Okay, what I have done, um, I have created a new package, data provider.latest. Let me quickly create a class, uh, data provider test. Okay, so let me quickly create a class. I'll quickly create a test method. Okay, click move test one. Maybe I'll name it as test one for now. Yeah. So now first we'll understand why we need a data provider when we can use a for loop to run multiple set of test data. We understand data provider help us to run the same test case with multiple set of test data. Suppose we want to do a login with 50 different set of test data, we normally use data provider. But the same thing I can achieve with the help of for loop, right? Then why have to use data provider? That's one of the main question, right? Okay, first let's understand. I have something like this. Okay, this out. So I'm not going to integrate with the Selenium code. So this is just a a simple set of statements. Actually, imagine that you are opening an URL, you are entering username, you are entering password, and at last you are clicking on login. Okay, this is our whole thing. Okay, suppose I have to run this for a different set of test data. So what I can do, maybe I can create a array maybe like this. Mm, Suppose I want to run it with three different set of test data. Okay, so what I can do, I can create like this, right? And at last I also want to use testing mini bytes. Good. Now I have to run this with three different set of test data. Okay, what I can do, I can simply run a for loop. Okay, int I equal 0, I less than your a dot length. Then I am incrementing the I during each iteration. Okay, if I run this, okay, control V. So this will run for three times. Okay, assume that I'm feeding these values, but for now I'm not doing that. Okay, so assume your test case is running with three different set of uh, you know first iteration will use this, second iteration will use this, and third iteration it will use this. Okay, so what is let me run the test and then see what's happening. Okay, the problem with this approach is the total number of tests run is just one. Okay, even though your test case executed with all the three times because of your for loop, but the total test count is just one. Imagine you have a login test case which needs to be run with 50 set of test data, your total test count will be just one. Okay, okay, now what what is the problem here? Everything is look fine, right? What is the problem if it is failing 50 or 1? So assume that my test is failing. Okay, I'm just failing it. So I'm just trying to fail it. Okay, so what is happening in the first iteration after entering username password and clicking on login, due to some your username becomes or your password is wrong, or due to login button is not disabled, your assertion state some assertion the home page is not loaded. So you assume that it is failing. Okay, imagine you have a Selenium test case. Okay, so it's failing actually. Okay, so let's try to run it now. Again, now if you notice, it has ran the first set of iteration. Imagine it has checked your first set of test data and then it failed. You do not know what is the result of the remaining set of test data, right? So you are actually doing the defect masking. One of the defect is masking all your other defects. Suppose consider you have a 50 set of test data, one of your test data got failed. You do not know what is the result of the remaining 49. Okay, is it because of only this particular test data or because of the 49? So you have to fix this particular thing, again run the next remaining things. Again now the second one fails, then you are fixing it, and then you have to again run the 48 remaining. So it is not humanly possible, right? What if you get the results all at once? That's what the our data provider gonna help us to do. So first thing, the problem here is, okay, the test count is always one, even if you iterate for 100 times or 50 times or 3 times. Okay, that is a problem. And if the second problem is, if there is some failure in your first iteration, we do not know the remaining iteration results. That's a problem. So we have to fix this to to find out what's the result of the remaining things. Okay, Okay, now this is a problem. Okay, how can I solve this? This is where your data provider comes in picture. Okay, imagine I need to use data provider annotation like this, and then I can create a method. Okay, let it be for white for now. I'll change it. Okay, so now we want to achieve the same thing with the help of without this. Okay, without for loop, but we want to run it with three different set of test data. Okay, maybe I'll use the same values. Okay, I'll cut it from here. I'll paste it here, and then I don't need the for loop anymore. Okay, I just my interest is to run it three times. One with this test data, one is this, one is this. Okay, now instead of this, I'm gonna return the string array itself, or the I can directly give like this, and then here I can change it to string array. Okay, now let's see how this works. But I need to tell my test method what is the data provider. Okay, so in my test method, I'm just telling your data provider is get data. Again, guys, if your data see here data provider, if you haven't denoted any name for your data provider, the method name will be the name of the data provider. Okay. Again, there is an extra braces here. Let me remove that. Now all looks good. Again, you can name your data provider too. I want to name it, say dummy. Okay. Then you have to specify dummy here. Okay. So that it can understand the data provider by its name. But if you're not defining any name, okay, then by default the method name is your data provider name. Okay, now let's see and try to run the and see the results what's happening. So this time, okay, there is a failure. So there is a data provider mismatch. So it's telling your data provider is returning me a string. Okay, it's returning me a string, but your test method is not accepting that. Okay, let's accept that. Assume it's the username for my all my test cases. Okay, now let us try to run it again. Okay, we'll understand what is this. If you don't understand what is this parameter and stuff, we'll understand that in few minutes. Okay, if you notice the same thing what we have achieved using for loop, we have achieved it here, but the results of the testng is telling you have total, see there are three test cases, all three of them got failed. Okay, so you can actually understand how many test data got failed. Previously it is just one test run and one got failed. I do not know what is the result of remaining set of iteration, but here it ran the test case one with the first set of test data Amudan, and the test case the test one with another set of test data called Saktivel, and the third one with testing mini byte. So you have done run the same test case with a different set of test data. Okay, and also if you notice, okay, you guys might be wondering, see this guy is using data provider, but is not using any object array or two-dimensional object array. Again, guys, it is not mandatory that you have to use an two-dimensional object array. The same thing I can achieve with the help of object array too. So for now, okay, I'll just copy paste this and I will name it as get data one. Okay, so that my compiler will be happy. Now, if I have to use a data pro, I can use a two-dimensional object array for this as well. So let me create a new two-dimensional object array, okay, which going to return, okay, and then this thing. Okay, the first one I want to run it with Amudan. Again, the second one, the same set of thing we are going to use object array to replicate the same. Okay, good. So now I'm ending this like this. Now it is asking me to change it to object array, two-dimensional object array. Now in my test method I want to change the data provider name to this, so this will not be called, now this will be called. Okay, again I will remove this so that we'll get all pass. Okay, I don't want to see fail. Okay, even if it's failed, it'll execute all of them, so it'll treat each of the iteration as different test case. So see total run is 3 and 0 failures and everything got passed. So the same thing with what you achieved with the help of object array, two-dimensional object array, you can achieve with the help of string array too. So what is this happening? I don't understand really what is happening. Okay, if you notice guys, object array two-dimensional, right? the first dimension, okay, this is like a thumb rule. You can understand this like a thumb rule. Okay, the first dimension indicates how many times you want to run, or how many iteration you want to run this test. Okay, and I will add a command block here. Okay, and the second dimension, right, the second dimension here indicates how many parameters you want to feed to your test method. So if you understand this one rule, you can understand data provider very well. Okay, so let me minimize this. Now we understand. Okay, so if you notice in this two-dimensional object array, okay, the first dimension, as I already told, will be 3, Amudan, Shaktivel, and testing minibyte. So the test case will be ran 3 times. Okay, the second dimension indicates there is no second dimension. Like actually, this is one. Okay, this is actually one column. So this is like a 2D array with a matrix of 3 by 1. Okay, 3 rows with one column. Okay, so the the number of iteration is 3, and the number of parameters that we feed it to our test method is 1. Okay, here if you notice, you can still have this an object array or string array. Okay, in our case we know this is all of type string, so you can also use a string, two-dimensional string array. There is no issue, the test will work absolutely fine. The only reason that we are using object array, when we have to use object array in case, okay, if you're passing one integer here, or you are passing some other reference variable. Okay, if everything is of same type, then you can use that particular type here. If you are not sure what we are going to store, then we can use object array, because object array can hold any of the objects, because it is a super class of all the objects in Java, right? So now we have pretty much understood what happened here. Here the same way, if you notice, the string array is having actually one dimension. Okay, let me open this. This is like a string array. This is your string array, which has only one dimension index, right? So in the first thing I have Amudan here. So I had Amudan here, and then I had Shakil here. Okay, so what had happened, it as testing many bytes here. Okay, what happened, so the row indicates how many times I want to run. That's why, okay, even here it ran for 3 times. Okay, even though we give it like this, it does not indicate it's a column. It will be treated like a you know like this. It will be treated like this. Okay, so it ran for 3 times. Each time it feeding one particular set of value to the test method. Okay, the second time, okay, all your values will be fed like this. Okay, so it's a two-dimensional value where you don't have anything for in this case. Okay, you just, it will be like a two-dimensional, but it's actually one dimensional. So you can hold anything, but at the end you just need to return an object, two-dimensional object array. You can hold anything. Suppose if your demand is just to feed only one set of test data, then you don't have to use two dimension. You can just simply return a single dimension array. Again, guys, I hope you all have understood what I'm telling. uh, uh, you know at the end, as a summary, what I want to tell. Okay, two-dimensional object array is not always the return type. Okay, if someone is asking you in an interview, we can tell that it's not always the return type of data provider. Okay, this is absolutely not. You can have iterator of object array and other stuff, but it is not true always. The two-dimensional object array only indicates the first dimension, will indicates how many iteration you want to run. Okay, suppose you want to run 50 times, the first dimension should indicate 50. The second dimension indicates how many test data, how many parameters that you want to feed to your test method. So if your intention is just to feed one, then you can actually use a single dimensional object array. Again, if you know exactly that you are going to pass a single type parameter type, then you can even pass it as a single string array, or you can also pass it as a custom uh, custom reference. You can also feed. It's not mandatory that you have to use a string type or integer type. You can also feed your custom classes objects. Okay, let's see. Okay, what I can do, I have already an employee class with me, so let me copy it, and then instead of typing the whole thing, okay, let me paste it here. Okay, that's fine. I want to save it. Okay, now let me open this employee.java. If you notice, it's a very simple class, okay, which having two private fields, name and id. I have a constructor with accepting the name and id, and then I'm initializing this particular fields. I have just the getter methods to get the value from this particular employee class. Now if I want to feed the employee reference to your test method, you can also do that. So let's see how we can do that. So I hope you all have understood all these things. So let me also create another, you know, a provider. This time is going to return me employee of, because I'm going to just return as one dimensional, right? So what I'm going to do, instead of storing this in string array, you can directly feed it. Okay, new employee array of, I want to pass what and all things I want to pass. Again, I can write it in new lines so that it will be more clear. First, I'm creating a new employee instance with the name of this and the ID of this. This is the first value. Second value is new employee of whatever you think, testing mini bytes, and the value as 2345, whatever. Now it will ask me to, so okay, first let me name it to get data 3 so that it won't throw any error. Okay, now see, we are returning employee array this time. So this particular guy will accept employee, I'll change this to get data 3. So this particular test method now is going to use this particular data provider. Let me move it above so that we can see all at one glimpse. Good. Now if you notice, we are returning employee array, but it is trying to typecast to a string. So let's see what's my compiler telling. So it's throwing error. See, method matcher. So you are trying to feed me employee, but it is being declared with string. There is a problem. I cannot do that. So what I can do, I can just change the type employee of imp, something like this. And then if you want, you can also print those values. Okay, imp dot get name, get id, whatever you want to print, you can print all of them. And the second time I want to print the name. Okay, this is how it is. Now if we run the test, it should work absolutely fine. Again, if someone is telling you it's gonna return you object array always, it's not true. If you notice, it's returning me 1234 Amudan and 2345 testing many bits. So it's all getting executed, but this time the return type is employee array, a single dimensional employee array. Again, you can hold it in a object array, or you can hold it in a two-dimensional object array. You can also hold it in a two-dimensional employee array. It doesn't matter. At the end, we want to achieve something uh, similar to this. But just understand these important notes that you don't have to forget about it at any cost. Now we have almost seen all of these. Then we will also see how to use data provider. We have already seen, and I'll also fail to denote you one important thing. See, this particular test method, okay, can only understand if this data provider is available here. Suppose, imagine I move this to some class called employee. Okay, now my employee class is present here. Okay, at compile time, it won't throw you any error. So everything is fine, looking fine. Now I am trying to run a test method which is expecting a data provider of get data 3. Okay, let's see what's happening. Okay, it's throwing error. See, I could not find it. You are telling there is some data provider but named get data 3, but I could not find this. So what Testng will try to do, it will try to search in this particular class. If not, it will by default try to search it in it's your parent class. If there is any, it is extending some classes, then it will try to search that. If it is not available there, then it will throw the exception. Again, if you want to use it not in the parent class but in some other class, then you also need to pass one more parameter, data provider class, and then pass employee. So now I have it in employee class, right? So employee dot class, this is the class where you have to go and search for this particular data provider. That's what we are telling. Let's try to run this now. So still it's throwing error. What is the problem? So see, com dot data provider lang dot installation. I don't understand what is this. Okay, I have given the class name. I have even given the name correctly, but then why it's not accepting? Okay, the one thing is you have to use in a class where it has a default constructor, no argument constructor, or you need to make this as a static method. Okay, then only this will accept, otherwise it won't accept. So this is the thing that they have implemented. If you go through the TestNG documentation, you can understand all this. Okay, now I just change it to static, everything work fine. Okay, suppose if even if you are using it in some other class where there is no argument constructor, then you don't have to make it as a static one. Okay, this is all that you have to learn about, some intricacies about your data provider. So then we'll also see what we want to do next, how to use the same data provider for multiple test methods. Okay, okay, we also try to do this now. Now we have, let me remove all this data provider. I'll have just one data provider. Okay, let it be this particular one. I have two uh, test methods now. Okay, let me create another test method at the rate test public void test2. Again guys, if you find the videos little slow, please change the playback settings to 1.5 or 2 so that you don't feel any slowness. Okay, so I have another test method. Again, I want to use okay, I want to use the data provider, which is get data one in both the places. Okay, but okay, let me remove this. I'm not using this anymore, just for the demo. Okay, absolutely fine. Good, everything is fine now. But now test one and test two both trying to use get data one, but the test two is accepting a string username. Okay, you have only one this particular data provider, but you have to reuse them. Okay, so what do you have to do? Okay, so let's say for now it will only work for your test 2. Suppose I print the username here, whatever the string that is coming, I'm just printing it. But this particular test one is needing an employee object, so I want to reuse that. Okay, either I have to create another data provider and then I have to change the name to this. Okay, what I can do, you can take it from your provider here, and this is how we are using it before, right? You can name it as get data 2, and here you can give data 2. So this test one will use this get data 2. Maybe I will bring an uniformity here. So this will use get data 1. Okay, and this will use get data 2. Okay, now everything will work fine. Let's try to run it and then confirm once before I'll try to explain remaining things. Good, everything working fine. Even if you go to the test engine results, my test one executed two times. Yes, because I have only the two employee objects here, and then the test two executed three times because we have three values here. Everything is fine now. How can I reuse with the same set of data provider? Okay, so what I'm going to do, uh, if okay, your data provider can accept a method argument. So this method is coming from your reflection. So reflections is a bigger topic. So if I have to just tell you in a brief, reflections help you to find object properties at the runtime, okay, instead of the compile time. So what I'm going to do, if this variable dot get name, okay, I can find the test method name which is calling this data provider at the runtime. Get name is equals ignore case if the test one is calling me. Okay, what is my test one? For test one I need to return employee, employee object. Yeah, that's fine. So you return this, everything looks good. For else if my m dot get name, sorry guys, you can do a lot of operations, but for now I'm just trying to find the name and then comparing equals ignore case. And if it is test2, I want to return something else. Okay, so what I want to return, I want to return this particular thing. Okay, again, to find the uniformity, I can just tell object array. Okay, or I can just put it as an object array and then change it this to return new object array with the values of then come on testing mini bytes. So just for our reference. Okay, now it's returning everything, so absolutely fine. If it is not matching any of this, I will return null. That doesn't matter. Okay, now I'm gonna change. I'm gonna even delete this. I don't need this at all. So both this will point to the same data provider, but at the runtime, okay, it will find what is the method that is calling it. If it is calling the test1 is calling this data provider, then it will return this. If the test2 is calling, then it will return this particular thing. Okay, now try to run the test. The only change we did is we are trying to utilize the same data provider for multiple test methods. Okay, this is really cool, so you don't have to write a lot of codes, right? So test one ran with two set of test data, test one two, test two with two set of test data, everything is working fine. And if you want to add more, you can add more. Again, if you notice, we have used a single dimensional object array because one is returning, this is returning me as some employee reference. I cannot hold it in string array, so it will throw error. Okay, see, it will throw error. Yes, that's why we are using object array, so it can hold any reference type. That's a good thing about using an object array. Good, we have seen so much about this, and then we'll also see about how we can use because we normally don't hard code like this, right? I want this test data to be fed from my Excel sheet. How can I do that? Okay, that's another task, right? So let me create a new class. I don't want to. So data provider with Excel. Okay, you're going to read the data from the Excel and use feed it to the data provider will feed it to the test method. Okay, that's what we are going to do. So we created a class. Okay, let me, for simplicity reasons, okay, I'll copy this and use it here. Okay, it's all fine. Okay, maybe I'll pass different values, password. Okay, I'll pass it from my, I'll also pass string first name. I'll also do that, and string last name. Okay, I'll feed four test data this time, or not only one. So now you would have already guessed what would be the one of the dimensions. So object array should definitely have this as 4, because we want to feed four parameters to our test method. So in your object array, your your second dimension is 4. What is the first dimension? How many times you want to run that particular test? If you want to run it 3 times, then it will be 3. If you want to run it 4 times, it will be 4 of 4. Oh, okay, so now you got a clear idea what we want to do. Here I can write some sys statements. I'm not doing much operations, the Selenium code. So okay, I'm just printing username for now, but we are feeding all this. If you want to also print out them, yeah, you can do that. Same way, I'm creating a data provider. Okay, and public void get data. Okay, control shift and move. Again, I can just change the name too, but this time we want to read it from the Excel sheet, right? So what I have already done, I have created an Excel sheet already. Okay, so I don't want to waste your time. So let me open the Excel sheet and see what we have in the Excel sheet. It's going to be really cool, guys. So if you notice, we have username, password, first name, and last name, which we want to feed it to our test case. Maybe we have some test case where we want to enter all this data and then click on submit. Okay, imagine I want to run it with three set of test data. Okay, only three set of test data. I want to pass four values. Okay, username, password, first name, and last name. So you can now guess the object dimension is 3 by 4, right? So you already got what you want to do. Again, if you want to pass some numbers, it is always preferred to convert it in the form of string, and then you can pass it, so that you don't get a lot of confusions when reading from an Excel sheet. Because reading a numeric cell needs you need to call a different method called get numeric cell value. If you want to read a string, you have to use a get string cell value. So normally what people will do, they will treat everything as a string by just appending a single quotes, okay, in the front of the test data. Okay, that's what we have done here. Okay, now this is a sample Excel sheet. If you also notice, the name of the sheet is sheet 1. You can also give your custom name, say testing or whatever you want, right? And the name of this particular Excel sheet is test data. So now we will write a code to read from Excel and then feed it to the data provider. Okay, let me quickly create a file input stream. Okay, maybe first or new file input stream, and then you can pass just the test location of this particular, okay, Excel sheet. Actually, this is located in my root directory. uh, Inside that I have something called as folder called Excel. Again, you can keep it in wherever you want, but for now I just kept it here, test data. But don't forget to give the extension xlsx. So this is the latest version of Excel. If you're using xls, you need to write a different code, maybe using a different object. So I will tell that what is that. But yeah, first I want to read it. Anyway, it will throw some exception. Yeah, it throws for now. And I also want to create see, we are doing step by step, guys. First we want to find this particular test data, okay, in my machine. That is my first test. Suppose consider you have your invited your friend to your house. Okay, first he needs to come to your bus, your location, to the bus stop or the railway station, and then from there you need to give a way to your house, right? So that's what we are doing. We first telling where to find the test data. Okay, I'm telling find this here. Then the second step, I'm telling you need to find an workbook. Okay, you need to find an workbook. Okay, new accesses of workbook. Again, you use XSS of workbook for XLSX. If your extension is XLS, please use HSS of workbook. Okay, and then I can pass. Okay, with that you're finding your workbook with the help of find input stream. Okay, you can understand like that. And I want to find the sheet I want to, because if the workbook has multiple sheet, okay, in our case it's just one sheet, but there are cases where you have multiple sheet. This is your sheet testing 2. Okay, you can have multiple sheets. Okay, which one you want to do? There are multiple streets. Okay, so you have to tell them the correct sheet. So exercise of sheet, and then you can mention sheet equal to the workbook. From the workbook, okay, I want to find get sheet. Again, this is having two methods. Either you pass a string name or the index. Okay, but finding with the help of string name, sheet name is very easy. So we are and more robust. Okay, so workbook dot sheet name, what is the sheet name we have? We want to work on testing sheet. Again, if you want to work on index, just use 0. Okay, so I'm using testing. Good. So now we found the sheet. Now I want to find the value there, right? So now we come to the sheet. Now I want to find this particular guy, okay, with the row and column, right? With the row and column. If I know the row and column, I can easily locate a cell. Okay, that's how I want to do this. So if you have to iterate the whole Excel sheet, I need to use for loop, right? Because I want all this test data, okay, to be read and feed it into this two-dimensional object array. Okay, we want to get this ABCD, okay, and paste it here. Okay, then 1 2 3 4 we want to get it and paste it in the object array, because at the end we want to store everything in the two-dimensional object array so that my data provider can return to the test method. Okay, so I just want to read from there and paste it here. Okay, that's what we are going to do. Okay, let me go to the workspace. I'm iterating int I equal 0, I less than, how long I want to iterate? I want to iterate till here. Okay, till here. So how can I do that? Okay, you want to iterate till, So this is index 0, this is 1, 2, 3. So I want to iterate I less than 4. Okay, then I plus plus. Okay, now you iterated the row side. I want to also iterate the column side. Okay, for int j equal to 0, j less than how many times I want to iterate? 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So I want to still iterate 4 till 4, j plus plus. Okay, and then what I have to do, I have to store everything in a form of in an object array, right? Two-dimensional object array. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a two-dimensional object array. Okay, with name as data. Okay, new object array. But if you notice, it is telling me give the dimensions what you are going to store. Okay, so as I already told, we want to run this with a three iterations and want to feed four number of column values. Okay, four number of columns, or you need to pass four values to their test method. Then what is your dimension? The dimension is, okay, 3. And the because I don't want to feed username, password, first name and last name, this is for our reference. So what I have to do, I have to actually tell 3 by 4. Okay, 3 by 4. Again, if you notice the code we have written, it'll actually read from 0 comma 0. This also it will read, because we are starting the I from 0. I'm changing it to 1 because I don't want the 0th index row. I don't want that. Okay, now everything looks fine. Now we want to assign this whole thing, whatever in the Excel sheet, to this particular data array. So this data array looks like this, guys. So this is exactly like this. Okay, it has 0 comma 0, 0 comma 1, 0 comma 2, 0 comma 3, and then you have all the elements. You need to store it here. Okay, let's do that. First, I want to store in data 0 comma 0. I want to fetch the value. Okay, she dot get, I want to get the row which is actually 0, first row, right? So first row is I dot get cell j. So what is the I and j value as of now? I value is 1, j value is 0. So it will actually fetch first row and 0th column, which is abcd, and then we are going to put it in data of 0 comma 0. So let me go here and then put abcd. Good, now we have done this. Okay, let's go to the workspace and then call the get string cell value, which will actually read the string and then store it here. But if you notice, the second time if we run this same, we will update this abcd with the next set of value, but I want to actually add it in 0 comma 1. How can I do this? Because we are hard coding it here. So what I can do, I comma j. Okay, now it is dynamic. So but there is a problem again. So what you are doing, I am storing it in, okay, I am actually, what I'm doing, data of 1 comma 0, I am storing it as abcd. But I want to store it in data of 0 comma 0. There is a problem here. So how can I achieve this? I can just minus 1, so that everything is now set. Okay, so it will read all your columns, feed it there, everything looks fine. But again, there is a problem. Okay, what if someone comes and add another row or another column? Okay, then this object array will be mismatched, so you cannot hold everything to it. Or if someone is removing some values, removing the rows, this hard coded value will not work in that case. Then how can I find this 3 and 4 in runtime? How can I do that? There is something called as let me there is something sheet dot get last row number. Okay, this will return me whatever I am expecting. Okay, I'm doing a sysout to print row num, just to understand what it is reflecting. And then I want to find the column number till I want to, okay, she dot get. See, again, there is no last column number. I cannot directly find the last column number. So what I have to do, I have to do some trick, like either I have to find the 0th row and then find the last row of the 0th row. Okay, because if first row is having 4 columns, then it will definitely mean all my other rows will also have 4 columns. It will not have more than that. That's why what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the row first. Okay, 0th row, and then getting the last cell number. Now instead of hard coding this, I can just type row num here, because That's the number of iteration I want to do. What is the column num? That is the number of uh, parameters I want to feed to my test method. So I can even replace this num, and this is your column num. Now everything looks fine, but apart from one thing, we actually need to return the two-dimensional object array. So it'll ask you to add return statement. So it is actually returning data. Now let's try to run the test and then see whether this whole thing is working fine or not. Let me save the Excel. Always when you're reading from Excel, close the Excel sheet and then do all your operations. So let's try to run it and see whether everything is working fine. Again, guys, I think this will be a little lengthy video, but I hope it will be helpful. So if you notice, the last row number, the row number is printing as 3. That's good. And then we have we iterated till A B C D E F G H, but it is not. It is still null. Why? Because the last row number is 3, but we are iterating. So this is 3. I will be less than 3, so it will only iterate till 2. It has to also iterate 3. So what I can do, I can add equal statement here so that it will also read that particular value. Okay, let me run. So I think we have fixed all the issues. It has total three iterations, so it ran 3 iteration. It printed these things, and if you notice in here, it will also tell you what is the test data that feed it for the first iteration. ABCD 1 2 3 4. First name is this, last name is this. So everything is looking fine, absolutely fine. But there is a problem here. Okay, in my real case, there will be not just 4 values that I have to pass to my test method. Okay, I have to pass 50 values because there is a form that accepts my you know my last name, my address, my phone number, my second address. It has, you can have a lot of other values, my driving license details, whatever. Okay, so I cannot keep adding my test method with parameter, right? So if you notice, as I already told, whatever the number of columns you have, you need to have as many as parameters here. Okay, but I cannot extend this with 50 parameters. My test method looks clumsy then. Okay, it will become very difficult to manage. Then what I can do in that case, what you can do, you can hold all these value in a hash map and then you can feed it. Okay, like I already told, we're going to do that now. Okay, so the problem is, we cannot, if you're in your case, if there is just 4 set of test data, if it is very less, then you can directly use this approach. Otherwise, I'm just copying this. Okay, pasting it here, changing it to get data 1. Everything works the same way. Okay, but what I'm going to do at the end, okay, I'll have something like this. Okay, maybe I'll copy this. Okay, I'll paste it here. Okay, I'll create at the end goal. We want to store in an object array, right? So what I am going to do, I'm going to store it in an object array. So object array of 0 comma 0. Okay, I'm going to store a hash map. Okay, I'm going to store a hash map. What this hash map will contain? This hash map will contain key as this and value as this. Okay, okay, this is your, okay, then this is one dimensional, right? So okay, then I will change it as one dimension. So then I'll have my second index in the object array that I'm going to store another hash map. Okay, I'm going to have a new hash map in this time. I'm going to have the, in this hash map, I'll have key as this and the value is this. Okay, if you notice, maybe I'll club these things together so that you can better understand it. Thick outside box, yeah, so like this. Good. Same way, I'm gonna hold another object index 2. I'm gonna store username as this and password as this. And guys, if you don't understand what I'm telling, we're gonna achieve something like this. But previously, we have here, we have stored in object array, we have stored a string. Okay, but this time we're going to store a hash map. Okay, if you're not understanding till now, that's okay. We will see that now with the real-time example. So what I'm going to do, I don't need this reserve statement anymore. Okay, I'm going to hold everything into an object array. Okay, everything into an object array this time. Okay, because I don't need the second dimension. I'm going to just have only one column value, that is my hash map. Okay, so I'm going to have this as new object array with the dimensions of row number. This is okay. But apart from that, what I'm also going to do, um, let me minimize this. I'm also going to create a map, okay, that's going to accept something, key as string, value as string, and let me name it as map equal to new hash map. You can use a hash table as well, that's absolutely fine, but hash map is a little fast, so I'm preferring hash map here. Control shift and O will import all these things for us. Okay, but my ultimate goal is, okay, as I already told, I want to get username, password, first name, last name as the key for my first hash map, and the value for this corresponding things are should be like this. So I have to create each hash map for each of my rows. For each of my rows present here, I want to create different hash map. Okay, so this is a different hash map, this is a different hash map, this is going to hold this is going to hold this particular set of value. Then i cannot I cannot afford to create this here, okay, because that will have only one hash map at the end. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create it new hash map here, so that whenever my internal loop, my column loop gets exited, it'll come out, and whenever I trying to execute a new row, it will create a new hash map and put all the values there. So instead of storing it directly in the data array like this, I have to store it in the hash map first. Okay, so let me remove this. Then, so what is the key, what is going to be my key? So if I have to store it in a hash map, it needs to have a key. Key is sheet dot get row. My key is always going to be username, password, first name, and last name. It not change at all. Okay, so I can tell 0, but the column side it will be j. Okay, dot get string cell value. Okay, now we have the key ready. I want the value now. Okay, um, let me put sheet dot get row, and then the row number is this time. Okay, first I want to have the value as this. Okay, so this is present in first row and zeroth column, first row, second column, right? So I can just use I comma j like I previously used. Dynamically we can get this, get cell of j dot get string cell value. Once I get these two parameters, what I can do, I can put it in a hash map. Okay, this hash map, if I have to update a value, I need to tell key comma value. Once I update into the hash map, I need to put this whole hash map into the object array, right? But because our end goal is just to have the object array, right? We need to store it in either an object, single dimension, or two-dimensional object array. Okay, then only this data provider can understand. Okay, you can use a hash map array, right? So you're gonna hold an array which is only going to have hash map, right? But preferably I use object array here. Okay, object array. So again, the object array name is data. This time the data is going to have index as I equal to map. That's it. But if you notice, I need to store it in data of 0. The first map I need to store it in data of 0. So I value is currently 1. I'm changing this to 0 by telling -1. Now everything is set, and I'm also returning data. Let's see how this works. Okay, whether it's having some problem or not. I'm changing the reference to get data 1. Okay, and for simplicity, I'm moving this, okay, below. Okay, now we can see whole thing at once, one view. Yeah, so let's try to run the test and see everything is working fine. And I'll give a quick summary. Don't worry guys, if you don't understand, it's fine. I'll give a quick summary so that you can understand. So it showed some error. Okay, let's see what is that. Hey, your arguments that you are trying to pass is of type hash map, but you are having four parameters here. That's not what I want. Okay, so this time we're going to reduce the parameters to just one, guy. So how cool is this? Again, you can have with string comma string, and you can have map. Again, to get a value from a map, I can use data map.get and then the key name. What is the key name? Key name is your first row in the Excel sheet. This is username, right? So this is going to be my key. Okay, let me save this. Okay, and then username. If you want to get other values, you just need to use username dot get password. Okay, by that way, if you notice, we have just only one parameter to our test method now. This is really cool. And then if you also notice, our return type is just a single dimensional object array. It's not even two dimensional. Okay, so everything worked fine the same way. It is returning password, first name, username, last name. Again, it won't maintain the insertion order. Again, we don't need that. If you want, you can use a linked hash map or something else. But for now, we are not interested in that. All we want is the data from my data provider to be fed here. To give you a final summary, guys, okay, let me open the Excel sheet and then I'll tell you what we done. Okay, the only thing that we want to do is we want to reduce the number of parameter to the test method. So instead of passing four parameters to the test method, what we done, we try to store everything in a hash map. Okay, this hash map is going to have key as this and value as this. The first iteration, okay, this is one of the hash map. This is hash map one. The second iteration, this is the key, and this is the value for your hash map two. This is what your test method will use. Okay, you now have all the data in a form of hash map. Even if you have 100 data, that doesn't matter. Your hash map gonna hold all of them. Okay, so by this way, we just reduce the second dimension. We don't need the second dimension at all, because we're going to just have only one. We're going to pass just one parameter to our test method. So this is really cool. I hope you all have understood what you have done here. If not, please let me know in the comment section so that I can find some other examples to explain you guys. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you like the channel, please do subscribe and share it with your friends. Again, we all see you in another great video. Thank you, guys.